to America's Web Radio. We've got a special edition. We've got a gentleman that's brought limes in.
That's no gentleman. That's Victor.
That's Victor. Well, he brought limes in for a special show on the coronavirus. And on point. So are we on point, Victor?
We are going to be on point. And you use that term, gentleman, loosely.
I did. Very loosely.
Very loosely. Yeah, you know, it's with everything that's going on, and there's so much, there's a lot that's not being told. Let me put it that way. And instead of coming on here and saying that there's misinformation, because that's going to be reported the wrong way, and we'll get all kinds of emails, and we don't want to do that. But well, don't get me wrong. I don't mind your email, so you can do that. But so I don't want to come in here and talk about misinformation. I just want to come out here. We want to talk about what's not being said, because there's a whole lot that's not being told, and the mainstream media is a culprit. The Democrat Party is a culprit. And I know the minute I mention that, there are going to be people out there that say, "Oh my gosh, you're politicizing this." Well, no, America's Web Radio is not politicizing. On Point with Victor is not politicizing. Your media, your lamestream media is, and your Democrat Party. I'm sorry. It may not be everybody on the Democrat Party, but a majority of the people, the Schumers, the Pelosi's, the Adam Schiffless Schiff, and the gang of those, just look, most of them, I'm sorry to say, but they have taken this as a chance to weaponize something that is really awful, something that the American people must endure right now, something that we must all be vigilant with. And we must act appropriately, of course. But you know what? We are Americans, and we've faced down bigger threats than this. And I'm going to refer to this theme today as we are Americans, because we are. There's no place in the world like the United States. There's no people in the world like Americans. There's no culture like the culture of America. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, we here in the United States have a culture, and we do have an identity. We are Americans. And this should be the most on the forefront of everything right now, because we have faced down much bigger obstacles, big threats. You know, we've done it. And I'm not minimizing the threat of the Wuhan virus. Look, folks, this is a virus that was created in Wuhan, China. Don't send me the emails telling me your conspiracy theories and blaming Trump, because this isn't the Trump virus. Trump wasn't sitting in a lab somewhere with a lab coat. I mean, come on. Listen, look, let me be a little bit, I am going to say it. You have a group here in the media and the Democrats that are trying to convince you that on one day, Trump is the dumbest guy to ever hold the office. Trump is a bumbling idiot. This is what they tell you on a daily basis. But then now we're supposed to believe that Trump was such a brilliant scientist that he was able to conjure up the coronavirus, COVID-19. He was able to conjure this up and release it to the world, and somehow he was able to sneak it into China, communist China. This is some of the things that are out there, folks. And look, don't waste your time giving fodder to some of the silliness that is coming out, and these just conspiracy theories that are out there. This virus, the Wuhan virus, the China virus, COVID-19, was created in Wuhan, China. Now, was it created by a communist regime because they had, they have a reason to cause havoc in the United States? They have a reason to cause havoc around the globe? Hey, that is a viable theory. Was it created in a market? Did it come from bats, which a lot of these do come from, and the Chinese people do eat bats? And look, you may be laughing, but this virus has been traced to at least the prevailing theory right now amongst almost everyone that uses common sense and follows the actual line, has been leading back to a live animal market in Wuhan, China. Okay, so drop the conspiracy crap. This is a Wuhan virus, and don't give me this, you're racist for calling it the Wuhan virus. Look, folks, I'm always telling you to do research. You can go on YouTube, you can go back just a couple of months ago, and CNN, MSNBC, ABC, NBC, CBS, all of them were referring to the virus as the Wuhan virus. They were referring to it as the China virus. And there was nothing wrong with them doing that. But look, folks, here's what I'm here to tell you today is I want you to pay attention to what you're being told. I want you to remember that you are an American. You could stand up to anything. We, the American people, when we stand together, nothing can knock us down. So I want you to pay attention and do your own research. Look back to what the media was saying just 2 months ago. They were all calling it the Wuhan virus because that is the appropriate thing to do. Look, let me go down a list real quick. Guiana worm. This was a virus. And why was it called the Guiana worm? Because it originated in Guyana, which is the coast of West Africa. The West Nile virus. Why was it called the West Nile virus and still today? Because that's where it originated. The German measles. Look it up, folks. We had the German measles. Why was it called the German measles? Because it originated in Germany. The Ross River fever. Why was it called the Ross River fever? Because it originated in Ross fever. You see where I'm going with this, folks? I could go on. The Ebola fever. Why was it called the Ebola fever? Why was it called the Ebola breakout? Because it originated from the Ebola River in Zaire. The Marburg virus, the Lassa fever. I could go on and on and on. Let's bring it home a little bit. The St. Louis encephalitis. I can never say that. But why? Because it originated in St. Louis, Missouri. Folks, that is what we've been doing for years and 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 years. Where the virus originates is how it gets its name. So it should be no difference. But now what you should be asking yourself is why 2 months ago it was okay for CNN, MSNBC, and the rest of them to refer to it as the Wuhan virus. But today, suddenly, you're a racist, Trump's a racist, everybody's a racist who will refer to it as the Wuhan virus. Why have they changed? Well, that's easy, folks. Communist China and the communist regime, led by Xi Jinping, this guy got ticked off and had his state media start running around screaming and calling the U.S. and anyone else, oh, you're racist if you call it the Wuhan virus. And then they started telling their people, look, this is a communist regime who to this day still has concentration camps. They still have re-education camps. You can call them what you want, but they have them. This is a country in China, a communist regime, that sends Muslims on a daily basis to re-education camps. And Christians and who else knows who's in these camps. This is a country that when the doctor in China, in Wuhan, China, sounded the alarms, they arrested him and forced him let's just say they reprimanded him. He had to go out and say, oh no, I was wrong. This is a government, the communist China, who covered up the outbreak of the Wuhan virus as long as they could. So again, why on earth would our media and our Democrats take a cue from a communist regime who tried to cover up the Wuhan virus? The Wuhan virus is a bigger outbreak in China because they tried to cover it up. They have many, many, many deaths needlessly because they tried to cover it up. The doctor that sounded the alarm is dead today because of a communist government regime. And yet, we have a government here, Democrats, and maybe some establishment Republicans, who knows? And you've got a lamestream media who are falling lockstep in line with the demands of the communist Chinese government here in our own country. Ladies and gentlemen, that should alarm all of you. It really, really should. So this is why you're going to hear me always refer to it as the Wuhan virus, because that's what it is. And shame on the American media for falling in line and taking marching orders from a communist regime. I mean, it's sad. So, okay, I want to. There's one thing that I wanted to do. I've been contemplating on doing this. I had the question this morning. What would I say? What would I have said if I were Donald Trump? So the other night, Donald Trump came on, and he did what he had to do. Because of what, you need to let the American people know what's going on. In fact, I would like to see Donald Trump do some fireside chats. I'd like to see him do that type of announcement or that type. Donald Trump can touch people better than any politician I think I've ever seen. And you know why that is, folks? Because Donald Trump's not a politician. But he has a unique way to connect with people. And what he did the other night was good. But what he did the other night was basically he kind of conformed to what the Democrats and the media said he must do. He must be presidential. They love to use this line against President Trump. He must be presidential. And the establishment Republicans, folks, Lindsey Graham, which you know how I feel about him if you listen to my show, and Mitch McConnell and the core of the establishment Republican, Romney, these class of clowns are constantly saying he must be presidential, he must be presidential, he must be presidential. Well, look, the American people duly elected Donald Trump. The American people will judge how Trump should be presidential, not politicians. But see, politicians live in this world that you and I don't live in. The Washington, D.C. bubble is a world that you and I don't live in. Folks, America is being hurt right now. This economy is being hurt. There are good, innocent people out there being hurt because of the hysteria that's being caused. But D.C.'s not being hurt. Not one Washington politician in the swamp is being hurt. They won't see a recession, folks. They won't see this kind of, they won't feel the pain that's going to come in the next few weeks that we're having right now. Let me pause for a minute because I think Dave Dave, you have something to say there.
Well, yeah, I do. Had a situation. I've had a couple of situations now that people came in, and part of it was media hyped a little bit. But when Obama would fly into Dobbins, he'd screw up traffic, just like every other
just
president.
Like any president, yeah.
And so I had one host come in just yelling and screaming about how terrible Trump was, and all of this about because he had screwed up traffic in Marietta, and that one guy that was a friend of his normally gets home in an hour, and it took him 4 hours to get home. Well, let's instead of popping off, let's look at a guy that's genuine. And he went to the CDC because he wanted information. He is our president. Mm-hmm. And as we learned on Agent in Charge, to prepare a president to go anywhere takes advanced preparation.
Massive preparation.
And it generally will take even up to months to get it, depending on where he's going. Right. So it was that they didn't have months, and they couldn't get, well, why didn't he take a damn helicopter and just fly from Dobbins to the CDC? I'm sure they have a landing pad at the CDC. Quite frankly, I don't know whether they do or not. But
they very well may. Yeah. But as you mentioned, Dave, there is a reason that the beast is the beast, and there's a reason.
It's not only that; it's like that. It takes literally, from what our agent in charge, Scott Bostic, was saying, or Sandy Bostic was saying, was that you have to get air clearance, and absolutely. You have to shut down all traffic,
airspace
that could be around Dobbins or could be on the fringe of Dobbins. I know what it's like to fly into the Dobbin airspace. You get a rather nasty letter later,
I'm sure,
and
from the FAA.
from the FAA, and they say, you don't ever want to do that again. And they were right. I never wanted to do it again, nor did I ever do it again.
And they don't give you a request. They tell you, no, you will not do that again.
And, so, and it takes time and preparation, and instead of applauding the president and saying he's doing a good job, we also have learned that one of the first things that President Trump did when he took office was establish a pandemic board. And he is, that went right into action as soon as the first sneeze of the Wuhan
as
virus.
we found out, yeah.
And, he, in my opinion, I think Trump has done, even as president, you can only do so much. My God, he can't stop it. He can't, but he did, and they pointed out the other day on one of the stations, how many lives has he saved by immediately stopping flights to China?
Oh, without a doubt.
And
he did that in January.
Yeah.
Which the media doesn't want to tell you. They don't want you to know that. David, you bring up a good point, because one thing I want to do a little bit later is we're going to compare. And if you look at the H1N1 outbreak, we went a whole year, the Obama administration and Biden, or as Biden says, the Biden-Obama administration went a year during that breakout without doing any travel restrictions or any. They made no movement whatsoever, and we had over 1,000 deaths before they really started to take action. Compare that with Donald Trump, who is the Wuhan virus. It was late December or so when we first started getting word of it. January when we really were getting word of it, and Donald Trump immediately in January restricted travel from China to the United States, just like you mentioned. And he had some advisors that told him he was overreacting. The media called him a xenophobe. The Democrats called him a xenophobe. They said he was overreacting. They said he was an isolationist, and they were making fun of him. Now let's look back. Had he not gone with his instinct, and this president has good instincts, and why? Because he's not a politician. But had he not installed the travel ban in January, imagine how worse the outbreak would be right now.
No, I don't hear, except between you and me right now, anybody praising him.
You won't hear it.
I personally not only praise him but endorse him that he's done a hell of a job, and not in just one area but many areas.
Well,
and it's he also doesn't mind making a stand and standing by what he says. And we've got a situation now that I wasn't expecting, and it's because this is why we talk about this on our military shows, that why does the government, yes, we're probably the most transparent, but at the same time, every government, including the United States, has to know when to keep their mouth shut, because you idiots out there can't handle all of the news. If you heard everything about Vietnam and things that happened there that had never happened in a war before, you couldn't handle it, and you'd be saying, oh no, our wonderful troops couldn't have done it. Yeah, they did.
Especially with today's snowflakes.
Oh yeah, I mean,
in the environment we're in.
You couldn't handle it, and that's why, I'm sorry, but the facts are the facts, and we'll tell some of it, but when people spit on their troops coming through an airport, and they did during the Vietnam era, then they can't handle the truth. And instead of respecting and bowing to them and praising them for doing a job you obviously wouldn't do, 1% of our population serves in the military today. 1%. Where are the rest of you cowards? And I'm not speaking to my friends, the veterans, my brothers, the veterans. I'm speaking to the people that wouldn't raise their hand and put their life on the line for their country. And I give Trump all the credit in the world for being out there, talking about it, telling us the truth about it, and doing something about it.
Well, doing something. I mean, Dave, you remind me of if anybody's seen the movies Men in Black.
Yeah.
There is a great scene, and this really fits. I know it's a movie, and some of you are laughing, but it fits today because there was a scene where they're sitting on the bench, Tommy Lee Jones and oh my gosh, why am I forgetting? Well, anyway, boy, am I going to get some emails for forgetting his name. But you know what? It happens. I'm getting older. But there's a scene where they're sitting on the bench, and he looks to Tommy Lee Jones, and he says, "Well, why can't we tell people about this whole alien thing? That aliens are amongst us. People are smart." And Tommy Lee Jones, he goes, "No. He goes, a person is smart. People are dumb, erratic. They get erratic. They get paranoid. They freak. I mean, he basically said, a person can be smart, but people as a whole will panic and have just these overblown reactions, which I think what they were alluding to, or at least what it makes me think of, is how sheepish we've become.
Oh, we're like a herd of cattle. Somebody, they start a stampede of, like you said, sheep or whatever.
Yeah,
and my ex-wife and I used to laugh at the folks that when somebody in Atlanta would yell snow, everybody would go to the grocery store. And if anybody knows, if you're going to have an ice storm, in Atlanta, Georgia, the first thing you lose is power. So let's go out and buy a bunch of steaks, put them in the freezer. It's going to lose power. And what's going to happen to those steaks? They're going to rot. Now, we would buy a few steaks maybe, but I had an outside grill, and I always grill. I love grilling in a snowstorm. It was fun. It wasn't lightning. It wasn't, I wasn't going to get struck by lightning or anything, just snowballs. So, it was fun.
Depends on how mad your neighbors were at you, but but you're right, and we've really got to, that's another thing I want to get to today is this reaction, this overreaction, and this sheepish attitude, folks. I want to remind you again, we're Americans, and we stand up to threats like no one else can. And I have hammered over different shows and about how awful and dangerous it is to allow the federal government to have anything to do with education. Well, we are seeing what happens when you have years and years and years of government educating our kids and pumping these kids out because, ladies and gentlemen, whether you know it or not, it is not the goal of our government to educate the brightest. It is the goal of our government to have a whole bunch of government subjects that will bend and just obey and sheepishly follow any directive they're given from their precious DC establishment swamp. And again, some of you may be laughing, but it is a fact. Just look at what's going on around you. When there is a run on toilet paper, I mean, folks, what possibly is the reason for that? It's sheepish. I mean, just look around at what's happening. Last night I went to a mall here in Atlanta, Georgia, and it was empty. And I went up to Chick-fil-A because that's where I decided to have a little dinner. And I asked him, has it been like this all day? And he goes, all day. So there are businesses, there are good people being harmed because people are so sheepishly following and reacting in a I mean, and again, I am not demeaning what's going on but what I am getting at is we are Americans. We can make decisions. We can be good stewards. We can wash our hands. We know the things we can do. And if you're sneezing and coughing, you stay home. You can make decisions on your own. We don't have to trash this economy to have a sensible reaction to what's going on now. And I'll give you some numbers in a minute that are probably going to make you sit back and go, why are we trying to destroy an economy? And I'll get to that too.
God's not going to jump in your case if you don't go to church, if you have a fever or you're coughing or anything else. As I pointed out to my pastor and the associate pastor, and they were both nice enough. The next Sunday they said that, stay home and be, and this is the thing with all of the, I was, not friend, but acquaintance, Billy called off the Masters today, which I thought was interesting. But, better safe than sorry. And if they're doing these things because they know something that I don't know, something that you don't know, and they're just trying to keep us safe. By the way, I don't know whether it's hit the stores yet or not, but oh my God, I don't have but 2 cans of beans or whatever. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. And I hate to say this, but it's true. We're not going to run out of food.
No.
We're going to have food. We're not Russia. And if real push came to panic, I bet Trump would be the first to say, let's introduce people to MREs.
Yeah, we've got a lot of them.
And we've got tons of them.
And you know what? They're better today than they were.
When I was in. Sea rations, as they were called. In fact, surprisingly enough, unless things have really changed, we still have, I wouldn't even venture guess, a bunch of sea rations that they don't ever go bad.
No, they don't.
They were bad to begin with, so how can you go badder? They're not that bad. Lots of sea rations. And that's before the MREs came out.
MREs came along. It's a good point, David. And look who makes fun of when the whole preppers thing was going on, when it was making the news and they were making TV shows about it. Who was making fun of preparedness? It was the Democrats. It was your establishment government making fun because you as Americans wanted to be prepared. You got made fun of. Well, ladies and gentlemen, preparedness is a state of mind, and you should be thinking ahead. There's nothing wrong, as David, I'm sure you will agree with me, there is nothing wrong with being prepared. Now, that doesn't mean you go run out and take every thing of toilet paper off the shelf and put the toilet paper underground. But it does mean have 3 months, have 4 months, have 6 months of rations. Just keep it handy.
The most nervous thing I've seen, and I saw it yesterday morning just as I was coming to work, was a doe in my neighbor's front yard. And
you mean lunch?
That doe was shaking like a leaf, thinking, Is my time up?
Well, as my friends and I will always say, because we are look, folks, I'm Mexican descent and I'm Hispanic, but I'm an American first. And my friends and I, we are red-blooded, Second Amendment, flag waving, card carrying Americans, and we're damn proud of it. And David, I know you as well are one of us. And what I mean by that is we are not afraid to make some decisions, and we are also perfectly capable of and have the resources to turn that nice, lovable deer that might be stealing from the garden into dinner should we have to.
You got it, brother. And, there's... Now, I have done it, but I don't want to say I'm perfected in doing it, is skinning a deer and keeping from cutting the wrong things that'll destroy the meat.
Destroy the meat. We may have to have a show on that. I may have to team up with Roger B. with Locked and Loaded, and the three of us should maybe talk about, just in case the need should arise, we can explain on what to cut and what not to cut.
And, how you hang them up and bleed them.
And if you're a vegetarian, hey, look, cows and deer and some of these animals, they've been turning plants into plant-based meat for years and years and years. So if you're that hungry, we can turn it into we can call it a veggie burger because, like I said, cows and deer, they've been turning plants and grass into viable burgers, patties for years and years and years.
That's true.
But,
That's true.
But, David, I mean, it's all... These are really good points, and this is what I really want to get to today is we are Americans. And yes, we don't need the government. You shouldn't need the government to tell you if you've got a fever, if you're feeling bad, or if you're just worried. Then you don't need to go to the group events. But that doesn't mean we have to go and have mass hysteria over a virus that, look, let me get into some particulars here. Yes, this is a virus that causes respiratory problems. But we know already this virus it hardly affects young people. The younger you are, the better you seem to be able to not even catch the virus. The older you are, the worse or the better chance you have of catching and having problems with the virus. There is a whole lot of people, folks, that we don't even know yet that have caught this virus, had it, and got rid of it, and never needed the first medical attention. If you are a healthy person under the age of 70, 75, you don't have to have this hysteria right now. We know this. And if you are in those elder years and you're healthy, you're gonna be okay. Now, if you are a person, and I don't care if you're 30, 35 years old, look, folks, I'm getting older now, but I was diagnosed with cancer in 2012. Now, I would be at higher risk were I still going through treatment. If you are a cancer patient, if you're an elderly with respiratory problems already, if you have what is it, David? CBD, COB. I'm just really making an ass of myself today, but
I know what you're
but there's if you've got
CBD or whatever
if you've got these issues or any kind of respiratory problem or heart problem or any kind of issues, then you need to you don't need the government to tell you to take better care or to be more cognitive of the fact that, okay, I don't need to be out in groups because if I catch this, it's going to be way harder on me than a healthy person. But my point here is, when you look back, folks, I'm old enough to remember 2009 and 2010. And I'm old enough to remember how the media, I don't even have to tell you this. Just those of you sitting around listening to me right now or listening to me later, ask yourself, what do you remember from 2009 and 2010? Do you remember any of this, anything like this? Folks, we had the H1N1 virus outbreak in 2009, and it lasted from 2009 April to 2010 April. And let me put this in perspective, because I'll bet you 99% of you out there are going, gosh, I don't even remember the H1N1. I remember the name. I remember something called the bird flu going around. I remember SARS. I remember some names and coming out of China. But do you remember the media doing anything like this? No. Folks, in 2009 to 2010, there were 60.8 million cases in the United States. 60.8 million Americans came down with H1N1. 60.8 million cases. As of right now, worldwide, there's 139,000 cases of coronavirus. Okay, folks, listen to me. In 2009, the H1N1, under the leadership of Biden-Obama, there were 60.8 million cases in the United States of H1N1. As of right now, the Wuhan virus, there's 139,485, maybe a little more than that, cases. You see what the difference, folks? In 2009 and 2010, there were almost 300,000 Americans hospitalized. 300,000 people in the United States in 2009, 2010 were hospitalized for the H1N1 virus. They needed medical attention. Almost 300,000. We're nowhere near that here in the United States with the Wuhan virus, ladies and gentlemen. I could probably pull it up. pretty quickly, but it's nowhere near that. And then in 2009, 2010, we had just over 12,000 deaths from H1N1. We are nowhere near that with the Wuhan virus. Ladies and gentlemen, in the United States, we haven't gotten anywhere near 12,000 plus deaths. But in 2009, 2010, the H1N1 virus, over 12,000 Americans died, and many of them were children. Because the H1N1 was quite a bit different than the Wuhan virus. H1N1 targeted younger people. Younger people had a hard time with H1N1, and over 12,000 Americans died. We're nowhere near that with the Wuhan virus, ladies and gentlemen. We're nowhere near that. And ask yourself, do you remember how the media reported this? Ladies and gentlemen, what was the biggest difference from 2009, 2010 to today? Other than the differences I just gave you of the viruses, what else was the difference? Well, let me tell you. The President of the United States was the letter D. The Obama-Biden, or the O'Biden-Bama, as Biden likes to call it, the O'Biden-Bama administration, they were leading the cause. They were, Obama was the president. Biden was the vice president. They were Democrats. So the media, what did they do? Look back, look it up, folks. Pull up a Nexus Lexus of the articles and the things that were being reported. You would get headlines like from CNN and MSNBC, well, there's an outbreak of H1N today, but Obama's over there walking on water right now, and he's doing a great job. That's the kind of reporting. Yes, I'm being facetious, folks, but you got reporting basically saying that Obama was walking on water and there was nothing to see here, nothing to fear here. When you had Reuters and other news agencies saying, hey, we've got thousands and thousands of people coming down with H1N1. What are you doing? Ladies and gentlemen, it took the Obama administration a year and they did not do a travel ban. It took Donald J. Trump 3 weeks, maybe all of 3 weeks, to make the decision to put a travel ban on China. That was in January. I cannot tell you how many elderly people right now, lives have been saved because of what Donald Trump did as soon as he heard and found out about the Wuhan virus. By that one move, restricting travel ban from the very country that came up with this virus. If Donald Trump hadn't have done that, we would be in a much worse situation. So he deserves credit. I don't care if you don't like him. I don't care if you believe Orange Man bad. I don't care if you can't see anything past the letter D. Because when you have a virus outbreak like this, you shouldn't look through the lens of politics anyway. But I have to sit here and do this and remind you of the differences because of what's going on today, because of what the media is doing today. And you can look all these numbers up, folks. But 2009, 2010, the H1N1 virus outbreak, over 60 million cases, almost 300,000 people hospitalized, over 12,000 deaths. And we went a year without outbreak, but without any travel bans or anything, knowing where H1N1 came from. The Obama administration and the Biden administration did nothing. I shouldn't say did nothing, but they did not do a travel ban, which is one of the first things they should have done, which is what Trump did. So thank God Trump didn't follow the Biden model. Biden's out there running around basically plagiarizing the Ron Klein, I believe is his name. From my memory, I'm going to try to pull this. But if you go back and you look and the person, this just here I go again. So if you look back at the H1N1, also look back to 2014. Look at the Ebola outbreak. Same situation, folks. And Ebola was way worse. But look at how the Obama administration handled it. Barack Obama appointed Ron Klein, or Clean, I believe is his name, as the Ebola czar. Now ask yourself, was Ron Klein, who was appointed by Obama and Biden to head up the Ebola fight, Was he a scientist? I'm going to go ahead and tell you no, he wasn't. Was he a doctor? No, he wasn't. He was a political Democrat lawyer hack. And what have you heard for the last few weeks? You've heard, as soon as Donald Trump named Pence, Vice President Pence, to oversee and pull together doctors and scientists and pull together a team, for a reaction team for this the Wuhan virus, they made fun and called Trump every name in the book and said, oh, look what an idiot. He's not even putting a doctor in charge. But yet, folks, if you just go back a few years, it's not that long ago, 6 years ago, 2014, Obama appoints Ron Klein to head up his Ebola czar office. And Ron was not a doctor, was not a scientist. He was chief of staff for Vice President Biden. He was a lawyer, well-known Democrat hack. So you see the difference here, people? You see why I'm telling you that you've got to be Americans. You've got to remember where the foundation of Americanism comes from, because you have the brain power to stand and the willingness, you should, to stand for yourself. Don't let today's media guide you. Don't be a sheep. Look, the media and some of these establishment Washingtons, they would love for you to be a sheep and follow them right off the edge. Because I'm sorry to say, but the goal of the media today and the goal of some Democrats and some establishment Republicans is one thing and one thing only, and that's to get rid of Donald J. Trump. And they're using this, they're weaponizing a what is a dangerous situation, and instead of pulling together and saying we as a team, we as Americans will fight the Wuhan virus, and we're going to knock the hell out of the Wuhan virus. Instead of doing that, they are trashing President Trump, and they're trying to convince you to be a sheep and follow them off the edge. They want to take you off the economic edge. They are, folks, you don't have to take my word for this. Just go look up YouTube, look up Don Lemon, go look up some of the CNN and MSNBC shows. Go look at what they're saying. Go look at Chris Todd and these other bozos who are out there saying that, oh my goodness, the Wuhan virus could be Donald Trump's Katrina. This could be the downfall of Trump. This could be the end of the Trump presidency. How in the hell can you sit back and listen to a media say those type of things and believe that they have your health in mind? Because they don't. They do not have your well-being in mind. They have one goal in mind. And this leads me to another thing. Ladies and gentlemen, you know what? We've gotten so crazy we haven't taken a break. All right, we're going to take a break. Let's take a break, and we're going to come back, and I'm going to talk about the downfall of sports, which is another goal of the Democrats. Folks, we will be right back.
Good morning. My name is Mike Mizell. I'm a retired Army colonel and president of the Johns Creek Veterans Association. We meet in Newtown Park, and part of one of our projects is the installation of the Healing Wall, the half-scale model of the Vietnam Wall that traveled the United States. Well, it's coming to rest, and it's going to live in Johns Creek forever, the half-scale model. We're looking at possibly a March implementation ribbon cutting ceremony, and we're looking for donors and sponsors that want to help us in this great project. You can donate at jcvets.org.
My name is Kyle Hayes, a motorsports student at Alfred State College. Every year, Alfred State students compete in the Great Race, which is a cross-country time endurance rally for vintage vehicles. As you can imagine, it's pretty costly. I'm asking for your help. Your donation can make it possible for these students to live their passion and promote the vintage automobile industry. Please visit our site at give.alfredstate.edu and search Great Race to learn more and help us reach our goal. Thank you.
Perhaps you are struggling to cope with the disease of addiction. If not, You probably know a family member or friend that needs help in battling the cravings and the personal and professional damage done by the effects of drugs or alcohol. Get a pen and paper and be ready to write down the following. These are the issues that the trained staff at the Atlanta Healing Center address and treat every day. Their doctors and counselors with over 40 years of practice in the field of addiction can treat the suffering individual in a thoughtful, compassionate, and experienced manner and guide him or her along the path to recovery. So call 770-696-9862 and speak to a knowledgeable staff member about how you or your loved one can be helped to enjoy a better and healthier life. More information is also available on the website at www.atlantahealingcenter.com.
This is America's Web Radio. Would you like to have a show, talk about your business, or express your opinion on America's Web Radio? Just email gm@americaswebradio.com and we'll get back to you. Thank you.
And welcome back, folks. And folks, I'm going to do this real quick. Now, I just wanted to do that because I like to remind people that we are America. And if you've never heard, if you wonder where that comes from, do yourself a favor and look up, just go to YouTube and look up Team America theme song, or pull up Chrysler Team America commercial. One of the best commercials I think I've ever seen made was from the Chrysler Motor Company. And those of you who know me, I love American muscle cars. And with the Challenger out and the Hellcat that's out there, Chrysler has done an amazing job with these muscle cars. Go do yourself a favor. Go to YouTube, search Chrysler Team America ad or Chrysler America theme song ad. And it is a great commercial. It'll make you laugh, but it'll make you proud as well. So, okay, I want to jump back in this. Folks, I want to get into a little bit of numbers here because we're going to run out of time, and there's so much more I could say, but I want to ease what's going on because we're having a mass hysteria here that we don't need to have. We can be sensible about this. We can be smart about this. We don't need the government and the media, again, to try and kill this economy because their one goal is to get rid of President Trump. The media and too many in the establishment Washington area are all too willing to hurt good, old, hardworking Americans. There are people that are going to get laid off. There are businesses that are having to close. There are college athletes that are having their careers or their possible future career destroyed because of a hysterical media that has one goal in sight, and that's to damage and get rid of Donald Trump. Ladies and gentlemen, the media and some of these establishment politicians have successfully, basically, they've been after sports. I mean, let's face it. They've been trying to demasculinize men. They want to demasculinize sports. They've been after football, American football, for a while. Now they've successfully ended sports. Folks, at the snap of the fingers, will you pay attention to what your government is trying to do? Pay attention, because a lot of these, in my opinion, are test runs to see how many of you will be sheep. But at the snap of the fingers, I gave you the numbers of H1N1. Do you remember this kind of canceling going on? Do you remember this going on? 60 million plus cases in the United States. Did they cancel all the sports things? 12,000 deaths in the United States. Did they cancel everything? Oh, almost 300,000 Americans hospitalized due to the H1N1 virus in 2009 and 2010. Did they cancel everything? No. Because why? President Obama was president. Well, you know what I'm getting at. And again, folks, I'm not mad. I'm just right. And let me give you some numbers, but it pains me to see student athletes being destroyed. Look, folks, they don't have to play full arenas, but you could play the game. What an opportunity we have here for all sports to continue and just be televised. What an opportunity for people to say, hey, stay at home, have your own family get together to watch the sporting event. Order out. There's nothing wrong with a guy coming. I will deliver the freaking food myself. And I'm sure there are lots of people that would love to make extra money. The delivery business, we could have just sent on a trajectory to earn the most money they could have ever made by saying, hey, let's be sensible about this. Let's go ahead and have the event. Just maybe don't have all the people show up. Maybe have just family members show up. Maybe screen these family members that show up and let them in the stadium if they have no symptoms, if they have nothing. But televise it. Let's promote families getting together and watching it in their home. We could have done that. That would have been a better way to approach this. And then the game could have gotten played. Everyone could have watched it on their own TV. And the student athletes wouldn't be being destroyed right now. I mean, come on, let's face it. The businesses. I'm not worried about the pro athlete who's making millions and millions to throw a ball across a court. I'm not worried about that. But what about that ticket stub terror? The concession worker. What about the guy who cleans the restrooms? The lady who's serving your beer? The men, or all of these people who actually have jobs they have to depend on. They don't have $1 million in the bank because they're a pro, but they're depending on that job. All of that is being destroyed right now.
What about the scalpers?
Yeah, right, the scalpers. Where's the equal rights for scalpers? So, okay, let me get into a little numbers here. Folks, as of right now, worldwide, there is 139,637 cases of the Wuhan virus. As of right now, there's 5,120 deaths. Ladies and gentlemen, listen to me clearly. Worldwide, right now, there's 5,000 deaths due to Wuhan. In 2009, there were 12,000 plus deaths in the United States alone. And today, with the Wuhan virus, worldwide, 5,000 deaths. Now, let me give you a number right now you're not going to hear on the mainstream media. Right now, there are 70,733 cases of people who have recovered from the Wuhan virus. Let me repeat that because you're not going to hear this anywhere but probably here on America's Web Radio and On Point with Victor. There are 70,733 people who have recovered from the Wuhan virus. So what I am getting at, we are rapidly reaching where the recovery rate is is going off the charts, folks. We have 5,000 deaths and we have 70,733 people who have recovered. Folks, this is the number you're not going to hear, the recovery number. This is the number we should all be concerned with. This number is more important just about than anything because it is showing that we are resilient to the Wuhan virus and that we can fight back. So I want you to pay attention to that number. Now I'm gonna pause for a minute because we have a phone call here. Believe Mark, are you on the line? Oh, stand by, folks. Stand by because I think I'm pretty sure we have a phone call here. Mark, are you there? Okay, soon I'm sure we're going to get this phone call in, folks. It's live radio, so this kind of things happen. Mark, you just chime up when you're there. Okay, we may have lost that connection, but let me get back until when Mark comes on, folks. I'm going to bring him on because Mark's calling from New York, and Mark is one of our favorite callers, and I know that he's got lots to say today. I'm sure. But let's talk about these numbers here. I can't tell you how important this is, but
okay, I don't know
right now, let me repeat this: 139,637 cases worldwide of the Wuhan virus. There are 5,000 deaths, and there are 70,733 people who have recovered from the Wuhan virus. That is an important number there, folks, that you've got to hear. Mark, when you come on, you just start talking to me, and when I hear you, I'm going to put you on. So now, here we are, folks. These numbers, I mean, you've got to understand. You got to ask yourself, why aren't you hearing the mainstream media and the Democrats and the establishment Washington, why you aren't hearing them give you the recovered number.
Mark, you there?
So you've got to understand that. So hang tight with us, folks, because we've got a phone call, and I want Mark to chime in, but we're having it's live radio. It happens. So when we get that fixed, we'll bring him in. But I'm just going to keep going here with
Mark,
some
go
numbers.
ahead and say something when you hear us.
So I want to talk a little bit about what's going on, and let me give you some more facts here. In 2 months after the release of the Wuhan virus, more than 35 Chinese cities have been put on lockdown. Okay, that's how bad
Can you hear me?
this was. Oh, all right, Mark, I gotcha.
Gotcha.
Ah, there you are. So folks, let's deviate a minute from talking about some of these numbers. And Mark, you're calling from New York, am I right?
New York City, epicenter of New Rochelle.
Oh man, it's sad what's going on there. But Mark, what say you about what's going on?
Oh, gee, I'm going to feel much more comfortable when Joe Biden, H1N, gets involved in this, huh?
Well,
he's gonna think Corona comes with lime.
You know what? David mentioned this earlier that I brought in lime with me, and he wasn't just making a Mexican joke, were you, David?
No, not it. The problem that I understand with Biden is they've shown him over and over again where China is.
But hold on, Mark.
The problem with Biden is that I understand his assistants have shown him over and over again where China is, and he can't quite figure out where it is.
Well, Biden's main motto is "I'm Joe Biden, and I forgot this message."
There you go. It's better than some of his other messages.
Well, Mark, think about it. I just went over the numbers, Mark, from H1N1 in 2009, 2010. Mark, would you refresh our memory? Who was leading the administration back then?
Well, let's just say they were following Biden and Obama. They weren't really leading anything.
Well, good point.
Let's be real. Wait, let's use that word. Let's be real clear.
Yeah, let's be very clear. Let me be perfectly clear.
But as I'm sure you've pointed out, as soon as Trump said no more from China people coming in here, they all yelled at him, he's a xenophobe.
Well, that's a great point, Mark.
And go look at Joe Biden's first concern on his website under his plan is that we shouldn't be calling anybody anything. Don't call it a Chinese virus, a foreign virus.
Mm-hmm.
That's his priority? Are you kidding me?
See, Mark, that is a great point, and I love it when you call. Think about that, folks, what Mark just said. Biden's number, and not just Biden, but the Democrat Party and a lot of establishment Washington and the media, their number one concern is not that people are recovering from Wuhan virus, not that the recovery number trajectory is on an upswing. No, they're concerned, as Mark just pointed out, they're concerned more about, are you calling it the Wuhan virus? You're racist if you are. They're concerned about optics.
Yeah, the bottom line is optics means thousands of people died under Obama and Biden. And Trump, if he would get a little help from both the Republicans and the Democrats, okay, if they would listen, you may not like the way he talks. You may not want to go for a beer with him. Don't get the corona. But the guy has an instinct, and that's what you got to recognize. His instincts are correct.
Well, Mark, look, man, I hate to do this to you, but we're at the end of the show. Mark, I think we'll do another show maybe next week, and I'll have you come on, and we'll get into more depth about what's going on and how this has been politicized. But, Mark, you won't steadfast there in New York because they need more Jews like you.
That's it. We're hanging in.
All right, folks, this has been a special edition of On Point with Victor. Thank you so much for listening. Tune in. We got lots more good shows coming up on America's Web Radio. You guys, steadfast. You are Americans. Don't ever forget it.
This is David Donaldson with the Atlanta Healing Center, conveniently located in Lawrenceville, Georgia. At AHC, your success is our goal. Addiction recovery is a